Alrighty, fifth graders, we are going to set up your skills notebook today. You're going to need your spiral bound notebook. It needs to be completely empty. You'll need a pencil, definitely something to color with, and then maybe like a highlighter or a marker. Okay, when starting your skills notebook, super important one that it's new, has nothing in it, but that making sure that we're using every single page. We're going to keep a table of contents on this first page that has everything listed and the page numbers, so we know exactly where to find the things that we need. So before we get started though, the good thing about this being a video is if I'm moving too quick for you, go ahead and hit pause. As soon as you get caught up, you can go and hit play until you are finished setting it up. So the first thing we're going to do is make a table of contents. And this basically tells us what page something is on so that we can find it later if we need it. This is also why it's important that when we're adding things to your notebook, you're not just flipping to a random page and drawing it on there, that you're going in order and labeling your pages so that you can find them later. And we're going to put up here at the top, page number, and title. So what it is we're writing about. I did not bring a ruler over. I'm going to go ahead and use my cursive packet to have a straight line here underneath page number. I'm doing it lightly in pencil. And you can go back later with a marker or a colored pencil to kind of brighten some of that up. But here we go, page, and we're going to do it a little differently than normal numbering, but just follow along. Page 1, our first page in our skills notebook, is going to be summaries or summarizing. So the first page, these are eyes, that we're going to talk about is how to write a summary. So now, again, we're going to flip the page. We always start with the holes on the left, even though there is, I'll move some of this out of the way. There is some blank pages space over here. We don't start a new assignment on the back ever. And another reason we keep this blank is because we will use all of these lines on the front and then we'll be able to move to the back. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label this page number. I like to put them up here because we don't really use this space anyways. Just put it in a little box. You can put it in the middle, you can put it at the bottom, it's up to you, but I put mine at the top. And we're going to put our title. We're starting everything in pencil and then I'm going to come back through and clean it all up afterwards. And our title is going to be Telling a Summary. You might hear baby James in the background. He is hanging out, watching some Disney Plus. Okay, so there is our title. Make sure when you have a title that our big words in there are capitalized, so capital T, capital S. And the first thing I'm gonna put is a question. What is a summary? And then I'm going to answer it right below. Make sure you can see this. Yes, a summary is a retell of the main events, the important word, main events, from the story. Another thing I didn't really talk about, try not to go past this red line or this red line over here. We always start on the red line. You see my word story kind of goes past it. That's all right. Just make sure you're not starting words over in this margin. Main events from the story in your own words. So that is the definition of a summary. And I'm going to go ahead and put a line underneath this. And then we're going to get into the rest of it. So the first part, I'm going to draw it like this. Put S. And I'll try and keep my book moving up as I write lower down. But this is an acronym that you're going to see a lot, SWBST, and that's what we use when we're telling a summary or making a summary. And that stands for somebody wanted, but so then. And that obviously doesn't make a lot of sense by itself, but I'm going to help you out with that right now. Let's put a little box around all these words. Okay, so somebody is the main character, so you can ask yourself, who is the main? And again, I'm not starting a word past that red line. It's snuck past it a little bit, but that's okay. Who is the main character? That's what we're going to ask ourselves. And then wanted. Make sure you can see this. Yes. Our question here is, what did the character want to happen? So you ask yourself, the character in the story, what is it that they wanted? What were they working for? What was their goal in the story? But usually there's a problem. What was the problem? Something usually stops them from getting what they wanted. Otherwise, it'd be a pretty short story. If I wanted a new phone and I went and bought a new phone, that's a pretty short story. But if there were things that came up, the store was closed, or I couldn't find my old phone, things that happened in the middle, that is getting in the way of what I wanted. Somebody wanted, but so. How did the character try to solve? Make sure you can see everything I'm writing. Remember, if I'm going too quickly, go and hit pause. That way you can get caught up. How did the character try to solve the problem? And then, how did the story end? How did the story end? And you can also kind of think about what was the final solution. So these are questions that you can ask yourself when you're trying to write your summary. And these are super helpful in writing because usually you can put about a sentence to each of them. I like to combine my first two, telling who the main character is and what it is that they wanted. It's kind of hard to write a whole sentence about the main character. But if you were doing a short story, you could just simply state the main character of the book, blah, 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 is blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it flows a little bit better if you talk about the character in this story wanted to, and then whatever else is going on. Okay, so that is all we're going to write on here. We are going to clean it up a little bit, make it pretty. I like to highlight the things that I need to pay attention to, and this will help you remember how to write our summary. Somebody wanted, but so then. I also like to pay attention to the word retail, main events, own words. So you're not using words from the text to write your summary. You're coming up with them on your own, and you're only talking about the super important events in the story, not all of the teeny tiny little details. Okay, I'm gonna grab some colored pencils and add a little bit more color in here. If you are coloring with something dark, like a marker, or if you're using a Sharpie, put something underneath your page so that it doesn't bleed through, because we don't want all of your pages behind it to have all that on there. But I'm only using colored pencils, so it should be okay. So I'm gonna color this one in red. And I know you can't see that S. I'm gonna come back through with something darker in a moment. know the table's probably shaken. And I think I will go over my letters in Sharpie. I'm going to go ahead and grab one. And again, because I'm writing in Sharpie, I don't want it to bleed through. I'm going to put something underneath just this page so that it doesn't go onto the rest of the pages. And I'm just going to go over those letters so you can see them really clearly. And now I know my pages behind it aren't being ruined. And you know what? I think I'm going to go around the bubbles too. You can do this with a marker. You can leave them as is, maybe if you have a pen, just so that they really stand out so that we pay attention to that part. And since I'm here with a Sharpie, I'm going to go over my title. Trying not to go past the writing too much. Try not to pull on the pages like I just did. You don't want to rip it out. That would be a bummer because then things will be out of order. I think I'll use this to come underneath. Give it some color. And I'm going to put my page number in Sharpie as well, so that I always know this is page 1. Okay. So that's what you need to have on here for page 1. And I briefly mentioned it before, but again, pause if you need. I'll move it up a tiny bit so you can see everything. Pause if you need to get caught up on writing anything or getting it colored. And what's going to happen is each week, probably sometimes a couple times a week, we're going to be adding things to this list, and it goes in order. But our next one is not going to be on the back, especially because you can see Sharpie peeking through it. It'll always start a new assignment with the holes on the left. Sometimes they are really long and it takes the front and the back, then we wouldn't write in Sharpie so you could see it. This one was a nice short one, so it fit great on one page. So I can actually go ahead with something underneath. Don't skip pages. I can go ahead and put page 2 here because I know this will be where I start our next assignment, and we are going to do another one this week. So again, we always start a new page with the holes on the left. We don't write on the back unless we have to, unless we had like a ton to write on here and it had to spill over onto the back, but we didn't have to. So there is our telling of a summary. That should be there. Make sure you're pausing if you need to, and make sure your table of contents has your title, page number, and what the title of the page is. Alrighty, get that finished.